January 23rd, 1950, 8:47 p.m. Bumpy Johnson was pouring himself a cognac when the phone rang. He almost didn't answer. Tuesday nights were quiet, the one night each week when Bumpy allowed himself to sit alone in his apartment on 147th Street, listen to Duke Ellington on the record player, and pretend he was just a man, not a king. But the phone kept ringing. Bumpy picked up. Hello? Silence. Then breathing. Heavy, panicked breathing. Boss. A woman's voice cracking with terror. Boss, it's Sarah, Illinois's wife. Bumpy's hand tightened on the receiver. Sarah, what's wrong? They took him. She was sobbing now, words tumbling out between gasps. 2 men came to the house an hour ago. White men, suits. They had guns. They dragged Illinois out of the kitchen. They said if you don't come to Frank Costello's club on Mulberry Street by 9 o'clock, alone, they'll kill him. The record player stopped. The apartment went silent except for Sarah's crying. Bumpy looked at his watch. 8:48 p.m. He had 12 minutes to decide. Illinois Gordon, 6'4", 260 pounds of loyalty and muscle, had been at Bumpy's side for 15 years. They'd survived Dutch Schultz together, survived prison riots, survived wars that left dozens dead. Illinois had taken 3 bullets meant for Bumpy, had buried bodies with him, had stood beside him when the entire Italian mob wanted him dead. And now he was bait. Sarah, Bumpy said quietly, listen to me. Illinois is going to be fine, I promise you. Keep your doors locked. Don't open them for anyone except me or Illinois. Understand? Please bring him home. I will. Bumpy hung up. He stood in the center of his apartment, thinking. Frank Costello, the Prime Minister of the underworld, the most powerful mobster in America, didn't make mistakes. If Costello had taken Illinois, it wasn't impulsive. It was strategic, calculated. Costello had been trying to take Harlem for 5 years. Tried force. Bumpy's men sent his soldiers back in ambulances. Tried bribes. Bumpy couldn't be bought. Tried political pressure. Bumpy had better connections. So now Costello was trying something new. Leverage. Take the one person Bumpy loved like a brother. Force Bumpy to choose between his best friend and his kingdom. It was brilliant, and it was going to fail. Bumpy walked to his bedroom closet, moved aside 3 suits, and pressed a hidden latch. The back panel swung open, revealing a small arsenal. 2 .45 pistols, a sawed-off shotgun, 3 boxes of ammunition, and a black telephone. Bumpy picked up the phone. No dial. Direct line. It rang twice. Yeah? A gravelly voice answered. Marcus, it's Bumpy. I need everyone. Right now. What happened? They took Illinois. I'm going to get him back. Silence on the line. Then, where? Costello's club, Mulberry Street, Little Italy. Marcus whistled low. Boss, that's suicide. That's their territory. You walk in there, you're not walking out. I know. So what's the play? Bumpy smiled. Not a happy smile. The kind of smile a chess master gives when his opponent thinks they've won but doesn't see the trap. The play is we remind Frank Costello that Harlem doesn't negotiate. Harlem retaliates. Get 12 men. Armed. I want them positioned on every rooftop within 2 blocks of that club. Windows, fire escapes, alleyways, everywhere. Nobody moves until I give the signal. What's the signal? You'll know it when you hear it. And if something goes wrong, Then burn that club to the ground and everyone in it. No survivors." Marcus paused. "Understood. We'll be in position by 9. Bumpy hung up. He had 11 minutes. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand who Frank Costello was. By 1950, Frank Costello wasn't just a gangster. He was an institution. Born Francesco Castiglia in Calabria, Italy, he came to America at age 4. Grew up in East Harlem, poor, hungry, ambitious. By age 21, he was running bootleg liquor during Prohibition. By 30, he was a boss. By 40, he was untouchable. Costello didn't rule through violence alone, though he was capable of it. He ruled through connections. Judges, senators, police commissioners, union leaders. Costello owned them all. He wore tailored suits, lived in a penthouse on Central Park West, and threw dinner parties where politicians and criminals ate side by side. They called him the Prime Minister of the Underworld because he operated like a government, diplomatic, strategic, always 3 moves ahead. But Frank Costello had a weakness: family. He had one grandson, Francesco Jr., 8 years old, the child of his only daughter. Costello loved that boy more than money, more than power, maybe more than life itself. Took him to Yankees games, bought him ice cream, taught him Italian. Bumpy Johnson knew this, and 3 days ago, Bumpy had made a phone call. 8:56 p.m. Bumpy's apartment. Bumpy loaded both. 45 pistols, checked the chambers, holstered them under his coat. He looked in the mirror. Charcoal suit, white shirt, no tie. He looked like a man going to a funeral. Maybe his own. He walked out of his apartment, down 3 flights of stairs, and onto 147th Street. A black Cadillac was waiting, engine running. Marcus sat in the driver's seat. "Everyone's in position," Marcus said. 12 men, 12 guns, rooftops, windows, alleys. You say the word, we light that place up. Good. Bumpy got in the passenger seat. "Let's go." They drove south through Harlem, 125th Street, then down to the Bowery, then into Little Italy. The streets narrowed, tenement buildings pressed close, Italian restaurants glowed warm in the January cold. Old men sat outside social clubs, smoking cigars, watching. They knew who Bumpy Johnson was. They knew why he was here, and they watched him drive past, like a man heading to his execution. 9:02 p.m. Costello's Social Club, 247 Mulberry Street. Bumpy stepped out of the Cadillac. Marcus stayed in the car, engine running. "If I'm not out in 20 minutes, Bumpy said, "you know what to do." "Good luck, boss." Bumpy walked to the club entrance. 2 men in suits stood outside, bodyguards, both carrying .38 revolvers under their jackets. They recognized Bumpy immediately. "Mr. Costello is expecting you," one said. They patted Bumpy down, found both. 45s, took them. He said you could bring one. They handed back a single pistol. Bumpy slid it into his shoulder holster. "After you," the guard said, opening the door. Bumpy walked inside. The club was small, maybe 40 feet wide, 60 feet deep, dark wood paneling, red leather booths, a bar along one wall. A dozen men sat at tables, all wearing suits, all watching Bumpy with predator eyes. At the far end of the room, at a large table beneath a painting of the Italian countryside, sat Frank Costello, 63 years old, slicked back gray hair, expensive suit. navy blue, tailored perfectly. He was sipping red wine from a crystal glass. Calm, unhurried. Next to the table, tied to a chair, was Illinois Gordon. His face was bruised, lip split, right eye swollen shut, blood on his shirt, hands bound behind his back. A man stood behind him, tall, scar across his cheek, holding a .38 revolver pressed against the back of Illinois's head. Illinois looked up when Bumpy walked in. Their eyes met. Illinois shook his head slightly. "Don't do it, boss. Don't give them anything." Bumpy walked slowly across the room. Every man watched him. Hands near jacket pockets. Ready. He stopped 10 feet from Costello's table. "Frank." "Bumpy." Costello gestured to an empty chair. "Please, sit." "I'll stand." Costello smiled. "Suit yourself. Wine?" "No." "Pity. It's a 1934 Barolo. Excellent year." Bumpy said nothing. Costello set down his glass. "You know why you're here. You took my brother. I took leverage." Costello leaned back. "Bumpy, I respect you. I genuinely do. You're smart, you're strategic. You've built something impressive in Harlem, but you're also stubborn, and your stubbornness is costing us both money. Harlem isn't for sale. Everything's for sale, Bumpy. That's the first rule of business." Costello gestured around the room. "I have judges, senators, police captains. I have more money and more soldiers than you'll ever have. And yet, you refuse to negotiate. Why? Because the moment I give you Harlem, you'll take everything else. The Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens. You'll squeeze my people until there's nothing left." Costello sighed. "I'm offering you 50%, Bumpy. 50% of the numbers racket, the policy banks, everything. You keep running operations, I provide protection and political cover. It's a good deal." "No." "Then Illinois dies." Costello nodded to the man with the gun. "Carmine, put a bullet in his head." Carmine pressed the gun harder against Illinois' skull. Bumpy's jaw tightened. 60 seconds of silence. Every man in the room watched, waited. Then Bumpy spoke. "Frank, you made one mistake tonight." Costello raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "You assumed Illinois was the only person I love." Bumpy reached into his pocket, slowly, carefully, and pulled out a folded photograph. He tossed it onto Costello's table. Costello picked it up, unfolded it. His face went pale. The photograph showed a young boy, 8 years old, brown hair, wearing a Yankees cap, sitting on a park bench eating an ice cream cone. Behind him, barely visible in the background, was one of Bumpy's men. "That was taken 3 days ago," Bumpy said quietly. "Central Park, 3:47 p.m. Your grandson, Francesco Jr. He likes vanilla ice cream. Rocky Road makes him sick." Costello's hand trembled. "What did you do?" "The same thing you did, Frank. I took leverage." The room exploded into motion. 8 men stood, reaching for guns. "Nobody move." Costello's voice cracked like a whip. Everyone froze. Costello stared at Bumpy. "Where is he?" "Safe house in Harlem. 6 of my best men watching him, playing checkers, eating sandwiches. He's fine, Frank, for now." You took my grandson?" "I gave my men one order," Bumpy continued, voice cold. "If I'm not back in Harlem by 10 o'clock, they kill him. It's 9:07 right now, so we have 53 minutes to work this out." Costello stood slowly. His face was no longer calm. It was rage, barely controlled. He's a child, 8 years old. And Illinois has a 6-year-old daughter named Keisha, who'll grow up without a father if Carmine pulls that trigger. So now we're even. You want to trade lives, Frank? Let's trade. Release Illinois. I walk out. I make a phone call. Your grandson goes home safe. Everyone lives. And if I don't? Bumpy leaned forward. Then we both lose family tonight, and tomorrow every newspaper in New York will know that Frank Costello, the Prime Minister of the underworld, got his grandson killed because he tried to steal Harlem. How do you think that plays with the commission? With your soldiers? With your daughter? Costello's breathing was heavy, his fists clenched. Illinois spoke from his chair, voice shaking. Boss, he's bluffing. You don't hurt kids. You'd never. Shut up, Illinois, Bumpy said quietly. But Illinois was right, and Costello knew it. Costello sat down slowly, picked up his wine glass, drained it. You're bluffing. Am I? You wouldn't hurt a child. It's not who you are. You willing to bet your grandson's life on that? Silence. Costello looked at Carmine, looked at the gun pressed against Illinois's head, looked back at Bumpy. If I release Illinois, you release Francesco. Yes. How do I know you'll keep your word? Because I'm not you, Frank. When I make a deal, I honor it. Costello stared at Bumpy for a long moment. Then he nodded to Carmine. Let him go. Carmine hesitated. Boss, we can't just... I said let him go. Carmine lowered the gun, pulled out a knife, cut the ropes binding Illinois's hands. Illinois stood slowly, rubbing his wrists, blood still on his face. Come here, Illinois, Bumpy said. Illinois walked toward Bumpy, limping slightly. They were halfway to the door when Carmine spoke. Boss, we can't let them walk out. If word gets out that we backed down... Shut up, Carmine. But boss? Carmine raised his gun and shot. The bullet hit Illinois in the back. He collapsed forward, gasping. No! Costello roared. Bumpy dropped to his knees, caught Illinois before he hit the floor. Carmine swung his gun toward Bumpy. You think you can threaten us? You think... Bumpy drew his .45 and shot Carmine twice in the chest. Carmine stumbled backward, crashed into a table, fell. The room erupted. 8 men reached for guns. Bumpy grabbed Illinois, dragged him behind the bar. Cease fire! Costello screamed. Cease fire! But nobody listened. Bullets flew. Wood splintered. Glass shattered. Bumpy returned fire. 2 shots, 3, 4, dropping one of Costello's men, wounding another. Then the windows exploded inward. Marcus and Bumpy's 12 men stormed the club from every angle. Rooftops, fire escapes, the front door, shotguns, Tommy guns, .45s. The gunfight lasted 90 seconds. When the smoke cleared, 3 of Costello's men were dead. 5 were wounded, writhing on the floor. The rest had their hands up, surrendering. Bumpy knelt beside Illinois, blood spreading across his back. Illinois, stay with me, stay with me. Illinois coughed, blood on his lips. Boss, did we win? Yeah, we won. Good. Illinois smiled faintly. Tell Sarah. Tell her I love her. You're going to tell her yourself. Bumpy looked at Marcus. Get him to a hospital, now. 4 men lifted Illinois, carried him out. Bumpy stood, gun still in hand, and walked to Costello's table. Costello sat there, untouched, not a scratch on him. His men hadn't fired near him. Bumpy's men hadn't aimed at him, because Bumpy had given the order. Don't touch the boss. Costello looked at Bumpy. You really took my grandson? Bumpy reached into his coat pocket, pulled out another photograph. This one showed Francesco Jr. at home in his bedroom, playing with toy soldiers, taken this morning. No, Frank, Bumpy said quietly. He's been home safe the whole time, with his mother. I never touched him. Costello stared at the photograph. His hands were shaking. You bluffed, with your own life on the line, with Illinois's life. You bluffed about my grandson. I made you feel what it's like to lose family, to choose between power and the person you love most. You chose family, Frank. That's why I'm walking out of here, and that's why you're still breathing. Bumpy holstered his gun. Harlem isn't for sale. It never was. It never will be. Send another man to Harlem, and I won't bluff next time. I'll come for everything you love, and I won't stop until there's nothing left. Bumpy turned and walked toward the door. Bumpy. Costello's voice stopped him. Bumpy looked back. Costello stood slowly. He looked older suddenly. Tired. Why did you spare my grandson? You could have taken him, used him, killed him. It would have destroyed me. So why didn't you? Bumpy met his eyes. Because I'm not a monster, Frank. I'm a man who protects his people. And children, no matter whose children they are, don't pay for their father's sins. Costello nodded slowly. Harlem is yours. I'll never send another man there. You have my word. Your word means nothing to me, but your fear does. Remember this night, Frank. Remember what it felt like to think you'd lost him. And remember that I could have made it real. That's why you'll leave Harlem alone. Not because you respect me, because you're terrified of me. Bumpy walked out into the January night. Illinois survived. Bullet missed his spine by 2 inches. He was back on the streets in 6 weeks. Frank Costello kept his word. He never sent another man to Harlem. Not one. In 1957, when Costello retired from the mob after being shot in the head by a rival, a reporter asked him, "Why did you never take Harlem from Bumpy Johnson?" Costello, sitting in his penthouse, smoking a cigar, smiled. Because I met a man who taught me something I'd forgotten. Power isn't about how much you can take. It's about how much you're willing to sacrifice. Bumpy Johnson walked into my club knowing he might die. He dragged his wounded brother out through bullets and blood. And he did it all without ever hurting an innocent child, even when it would have given him the ultimate leverage. The reporter leaned forward. So you respected him? Respect? Costello laughed. I was terrified of him. Any man who can bluff his way through a death trap with nothing but a photograph and the will to die before he surrenders. You don't fight that man. You stay the hell out of his way. Costello took a long pull from his cigar. Bumpy Johnson wasn't a gangster. He was a king, and kings don't bow to anyone. January 23rd, 1950. One night, one trap, one bluff. Frank Costello tried to steal Harlem by taking the person Bumpy loved most. But what Costello didn't understand was that Bumpy Johnson didn't just protect his family. He protected his principles. And a man who won't compromise his principles, even with a gun to his brother's head, is a man you can never defeat. I really want to know, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments. This story has reached readers on every continent, and I'm always amazed by how far these legends travel. Drop a comment. Share this story. Let's talk about it. See you in the next one.